Hi, I'm Linda. Welcome back. Today I finished up a little snow scene. My trusty guardian, little Minnie over here, has been with me every day, watching me make my mistakes. But I think it turned out pretty well. I did a little acrylic background first, let it dry, proceeded with my big tall pine trees, made lots of little limbs and a little path going on here. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. So get your paints out, get ready. So let's get started. Now here are the paints I use. Acrylics white, black, phthalo blue, oils with liquid white, titanium white, lamp black, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, sap green, burnt sienna, shad yellow pale hue, and brilliant red. So I've started out with a plain, dry 16 by 20 canvas. I've got acrylics on my palette, white, black, and phthalo blue. And I've just mixed up a little bit of a light gray, and that's white with tiny bit of blue with tiny bit of black. It just makes a real pale gray. I'm going to etch out my landscape, my back hillside, and I'm going to go below the halfway mark and just angle down to the right and then up maybe just below the halfway mark. I want a nice little incline there. So I'm going into the light gray still, and I'm going to make some background trees. Got, I think, a number three liner brush. It's a little bit thicker. I can put, some pressure on it, and I could just keep going straight up. Not all the way to the top, but I want a couple of really nice straight background trees. So I'm going to make a few more. See, I added a couple more on the left. Just going to go up fairly close there. Make another one. It's just going to be a little grove of trees in the background. I'm going to keep going, adding some more. Still with that very light blue-gray, very, very light, all the way. Nice straight trees. And you can put as many as you want, but I want this fairly thick. I'm going to leave the center part open there. And I'm taking a little fan brush and just brushing downward with a little bit of the light gray, pushing downward like I'm putting in some background brush in between those trees. You don't have to be real fussy, but it's just, it's nice to have it there. I'm going to add a couple of smaller trees. Put some small little limbs, little branches sticking out, just ever so small. Now I've got my fan brush. I've loaded with just white, plain white. And go just underneath that tree line, just to give it a little separation there. And now I dip my finger in the blue, the light blue, and I'm putting in the beginning I thought they were clouds, but I think they're tree boughs, evergreen boughs way in the distance. That's what they are. They're not really clouds at all. So I'm just putting a few here and there because it's a thick forest in the distance. Just some of that light blue, very, very light. I wanted it fairly smooth. Okay, now that is dry, and I'm going to put um liquid white all over. Just a nice thin coat. Just work it in all over. You don't want a whole lot because it will tend to make your paint run if you have too thick of a coat. So what I like to do is take a blue shop towel, fold it in half and half again, and I'll go over the whole thing real light just to take off that excess. And see, you'll be able to still see the trees coming through in the background. And then I'll take a nice dry brush and I'll just go over the top and smooth it out. Kind of expose the trees a little bit more, but all right. So now I'm going to go right into start with my oils. And I'm going into titanium white. I'm going to go underneath again, just below that black tree line. So I've got a little bit of white and gray with a touch of blue, just a very light. It's a blue gray, very faint. And I'm going to start putting in some little arms that are coming out that are a little more prominent than the ones we did with the acrylic. I'm in the doing the tallest one there. And then the next one got a little bit of a darker trunk, the bottom, dark gray. And I'm going to probably make the other one too the same way. But I want to keep those branches, get those little tiny branches in place. So I've got a bigger brush, like a flat 1/2 inch. I'm just gonna pat downward with it. I'm gonna make some little bushes back there. Oh, I changed to the fan brush. That works a little better. But yeah, that fan brush I use a lot. Okay, that is in a little bit of light, darker blue. My bushes there. Took the blue chop towel and I went over the top of it. If you think you have too much paint in there, it kind of mutes it a little bit and it flattens it out. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more little grafties, little bushes along side of some of those trees. I'm going to bring down that darker tree. I'm going to pull that down just a little bit farther because that's a little closer tree. Same with the other one. Just bring them down just a little bit. And I'm going to put in another tree, a little darker gray. Not much though, just a little darker gray, right straight up. And I'm going to do another one. Lots and lots of trees in this one. And make sure there's some little limbs on that one too. All of them are going to have limbs, just a little bit. These are going to be pine trees, and they have a lot of little arms sticking out. So I'm going into darker gray, just at the base of those. And later on, I'm going to add a little blue in there, a little icy blue. But right now, those trees are going to be a little bit closer. So I want them a little darker. Get my little fan brush. I think it's a number 3. That works pretty nice for brush. Brush alongside of the trees and smooth out that bottom part with a little more blue in it. And with this, putting a little snow underneath there, more white. Okay, now I'm using a little scruffy brush. I got that online, Donna Dewberry, 3/4 inch scruffy. And boy, does that ever work nice when you're making some brushy areas. I just tap it in paint there and just tap with the tips of those bristles, and it really makes for some nice little bushes. Just tapping really light. Okay, so I'm going to start etching out my road or path. I'm going to start at the bottom corner, not quite at that corner, but maybe an inch away. I'm going to make a U-ey, a little U-ey that goes back. So I want to keep my lines fairly straight there when I'm etching in the bank. And then I'm going to go almost center line, right dead center in that canvas, and I'm going to make another big U-ey that's going to curve right around, and that little road is going to disappear on the end. All right, so I'm ready to put in another tree. I want to get my big tree in there. And I'm using a palette knife because everything's wet and I can't really put my hand on the canvas. So I just, for a straight line, I just put a little roll on my palette knife and I just go up. And then I can see where that tree is and how thick, and all I have to do is fill it in. Just fill it in. And that's where the number 3 is a script liner, but it's a number 3. It's a little bit thicker than your really fine. But this works really good. The tree is not that big. And I've got Van Dyke Brown. And with the white I've got down there, it's going to be a little faded brown, which is fine. Just want a really nice, tall, straight line. Now I'm going into a little Van Dyke Brown and yellow. I'm going to do the outside of that. The outside. The sun is coming off in from the left. So that left side of the tree is going to be the sunny side. So I want to make that a little bit lighter. And there's a brush I I made. I took a scissors and I kind of angled the cut. I cut it across and I made a nice little point. And boy, does that little brush work really good for fine thin lines. All right, so I'm going to edge I'm edging the outside of the tree trunk there, really careful. I want to make sure it's nice and straight. Going in, I've got some Van Dyke brown on my brush. I want that right side a little darker than the left. Now I've added a little yellow and white with a touch of the burnt sienna. It makes for a nice little sun, kind of a glowing, sunshiny, not too bright, but it's just enough. And I'm going to just hit the left side of that tree just a little bit, just touching, just barely touching, not even brushing. It's just a little tap touch. Okay, so I decided I needed a little more blue in there. So I got some light blue on my finger and I'm just gonna spread some back there. Like I said, it's not clouds, it's actually part of the distant tree boughs. Okay, so now I'm gonna make some little arms, little limbs coming out. They're not very long. They're just tiny little limbs, and there I am using it's a number zero script liner, and that makes really thin, fine lines, which works really good for distant limbs. And I'm gonna go all the way up. Got the Van Dyke brown on it. And they're fairly straight. Some are reaching upward, some are straight across, angling upward. I guess you don't have to be real fussy because a lot of that probably won't even show, but I still put them in there because snow is going to be on the top of those limbs, so some of them will be visible. Okay, I've got a liner there and I've got some real light blue. Got my finger there. I'm just smoothing that line of the edge of the road. I'm just kind of smearing some of that on. I'm keeping the lay of the land now. That's kind of a hillside, so that's going to go upward a little bit. Just softening that edges. You can use a brush, but shoot, I got some baby wipes. I just wipe my fingertips off with that. It smooths it out pretty good. I'm gonna go work my way around, like curve. You know, you can curve your hand around so you stay with the curve of the road. And there's a little bank there, so that's gonna go upward just a little bit. I'm adding a little more darker blue. There's lots of different layers and shades of the same color, you know? You need to have some of that dark in there for the shadows. That's what gives you the depth and the feel of it's realistic painting. That's how I like to paint, more realistic. Adding a little darker, maybe a touch of black, not much. All right, that little um looks like water that I've got next to my um painting there. That is odorless mineral spirits. That's what's in there, and I like to use that, have it handy so I can shake off paint from my brush. Now I'm shaping my road. I might put a couple of cracks in there, maybe some footprints. I don't know. But I want to get the angle of that road. That will angle right around to that far right corner too, eventually. Right now, I'm just kind of working on the banks, getting that dark, the shadows in there. I'll add more blue and white, and it'll all come together. Okay, I've got a real soft brush I'm using just to buff some of that uh, paint out. I really didn't want to use my finger on that dark, but you need to have dark. Without the dark, there is no light. So you need to have that uh, in there. Okay, I'm working my way around. I'm just shaping that path till I get it the way I like it. I'm looking at a picture, but some of it I'm changing a little bit. It's not going to be exact. So yeah, I've added some blue in there now, darker blue, using my finger. I think that works the best. Just smudge it in there all the way down there. Just keep going around. The road's gonna disappear there. That angle is really important. Okay, gonna work on this left side of the road there. I see some darker areas I'm gonna put in just a little bit. I've got a little touch of black and blue, dark, dark, very dark gray there. Going to blue. I want that blue gray. I need that blue in there. I'm going to come around. I'm going to do the center of the road ever so light. Get that curve. Just tap it in there real light. Still putting in some shading, darker areas. Adding a little white. There's a bank there, so now I'm going to put a little snow in there. Notice that pattern. Just kind of pushing it in and keeping the lines fairly straight though. Other side of the road. And then I'm just taking that real soft brush and just buffing that out. Still working on the road there. Little white. And I did add a little bit of thinner there. Can't be thick paint because then it won't stick to what you put on. It has to be fairly thin, but not watery. See how it just you tap it on and it will stick. Working on the bank, making that right side a little bit darker. Trying to put some tracks in there, some kind of like wheel tracks. I don't know. I put some blue on the other track on the other side. It's gonna buff that, see how that looks. It's kind of trial and error, you put something down. If you don't like it, you can still go over the top of it. So I'm just adding some white, dipping it here and there, trying to get the road the way I want it. Adding a little more gray, kind of fades out in the back. We've got going into a little more black, white. I'm dotting in some footprints. I don't know if you can see them, but they're a dark gray. It's like somebody's footprints walking. Not not too bad. Add a little white in there. All right. I'm pretty happy with my road, so I'm gonna go ahead and put in another tree. And this one's gonna be a split tree. In other words, the left side's gonna curve up and straight up. And then we're gonna have another one. The base is gonna be, I'm making one side solid, and then I'll bring in the second side alongside of it. But it's gotta be a little bit wider at the bottom. The top is, it gets thinner as it goes up. Okay, so now I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna make it split. And that one's gonna go fairly straight. It's a good way for me anyway to etch out um, trees. Because it's kind of hard to put your hand, I almost have to put my hand on the canvas. You can't do that because that liquid white is on there and it will come off on your hand. Okay, I'm still working on the branch. Just to give me an idea where I'll just fill it in then. I'll just fill it in, shape it as I go. But it's kind of leaning a little bit, so there's going to be another one in front of that off to the side. So thinking about the thickness and that, I think I got it. All right. Well, I'm going to take a break. Well, isn't that nice? Well, I guess I'm back. All right, so I've got some Van Dyke Brown on my little brown brush there, and I'm just gonna slowly fill that in. Just carefully in between those lines. That brush looks a little brown brush. It's not very thick. I can press down on it and it's just the right size. I attempt to do the other side. Straight down. See how easy that is? It's pretty good. So I'm gonna start at the top and come down. Some people go to the bottom and go up, but I like to go start at the top and come down. And then I will put a couple of big branches on the outside tree there, or limb. I guess it's a branch. I don't know. It's a trunk. And just make some big old limbs. And then I've got a smaller brush. I think I'm going to make just some little ones that stick out there. All right, I'm going to keep adding some more little arms. Just here and there, going out and up. I have a lot of those. Get your practice on this one. Yeah, there's a lot of them, and a lot of that won't even show, but good to have them there. So now I'm going in with the burnt sienna. I've got that crooked little brush that I cut, and I'm doing just the left side. Well, actually, it looks like the whole side, but normally I would just do the left side. That's a pine tree, so those trees are have that reddish color to them. So I'm just gonna go all the way and all the way down, dipping in a little bit of yellow with a touch of burnt sienna. Changes that, almost looks like yellow ochre, but it's had yellow light hue with a touch of the burnt sienna. And that's going on the left side, which is the sunlight side. The sun's hitting that area. Going into a little the red or burnt sienna. I'm gonna just keep touching till I'm happy with it. Adding a little more burnt sienna in there. All right. You see a little bush back there, but I'm not quite ready yet. I'm just kind of seeing what that's going to look like. It's going to have some pine trees back there. I've got on the left side, I dotted some white titanium white, but now I'm into that big tree that's in the very front. It's a pretty good sized one, and that is going to narrow up a little bit as you get to the top, all the way. Now I'm going to fill that in. Start from the bottom and just gently go up. This time I'm just going to do half of that. The left side I'm going to kind of leave open because it highlights better. My highlights show just a little bit better, and you'll see. So I'm shaping that tree, making it a little bit wider than it was. But I'm going to make it darker at the bottom. Now I'm going into burnt sienna, and I'm going to go on the other side of that. You'll see how that works pretty good. It highlights really nice. Ooh, I like that. That's pretty. Still shaping that trunk. So I'm just going to go in with a little dark black and brown and pull up on that. Just here and there, I'm making like bark. Some people use their palette knife. I'm just using a brush because I can always dot in. but I want the right side uh, dark because that's the shadow side. Okay, I've got sap green with a little bit of phthalo blue mix, and I'm going to put a big old pine tree behind that. I wanted a really dark uh, color there. Eventually, I will add a little lighter green, but right now I want it to be fairly dark in the back. And just tapping in alongside of that one tree. Actually, it's supposed to be behind it, which is fine. I'm going to fill that in. Just tapping with my fan brush. And after a bit, we'll shape it more when we add the white snow on the boughs. And I'm putting a little dark down at the base of that tree, a little bit. Now I'm using my little pointy brush that I cut, and I'm going to go into white. I'm going to start tipping, and forming snow on those tree boughs. Just tap ever so light. And on the other side, same thing. You start shaping out your boughs. That will all change when I add a little green in there, more green. But I wanted it dark. And adding some more white on the limbs. All right, I'm going into burnt sienna with a touch of yellow. And I'm going to probably go in there and I'm going to just dot a little bit in the tree. A little bit of sunlight in there. It's exposed. Just a little bit here and there. And I'll do a little bit on the top part too. I'm going to make that tree just a little bit thicker at the midway. It's a little weird shape right now. I'm going to fix that. And a little more yellow. My mini is seeing something outside. I don't know if it's a squirrel or what, but she's letting me know. All right, so I'm gonna got more of the highlight color, just dotting here and there. All right, so I'm gonna go into a little bit of the dark color there, dark black with a little bit of brown. I'm gonna add some little bit of thickness there on that tree. I'm thickening that up. I'm gonna add a couple of arms maybe. Yeah. That's better. Van Dyke brown, touch of black. Some of those bigger limbs, I want them to reach out. Those are going to show. And straightening up the tree at the base. Adding a little white snow at the on the left side there with a touch of blue. All right, I'm going to add some snow on some of those branches. I'm using, you can use a fan brush or a liner. I've got my crooked little brush that works pretty good. And I'm just going to gently on the top portion. And then it's going to pool. The snow is going to, be a little bit thicker right next to the main trunk. It's going to settle in there. Just dotting a little extra. I switch off too. Looks like I will use my liner brush too to put some of that snow on. But the paint's got to be, well, not rib, but it can't be thick. It has to be fairly thin, otherwise it won't stick. That's the wet on wet technique. You have to thin that out a little bit, and it will stick. That's the beauty of with working with this technique and oil, because you can keep it going. I'm gonna go on the other trees there and put just a little bit of snow on their limbs too, just dotting here and there. So now I'm back into my medium blue there, medium to light. I'm gonna put a couple of really distant pine trees in the back. And they're more like Christmas trees, I guess. I use my fan brush and just kind of zigzag back and forth. That's how I usually make my pine trees, but these other boughs are quite different. Just side to side, I've got a really small brush, and then I use a palette knife to go up and make little points at the top. I'm going to go down, not all the way. That's it right there. All right, I started to do some bough branches here, but don't do it. I've got the wrong color, so just ignore it. Because I've got a couple of big trees that go in the back there. See, I'm putting that light green. Well, I didn't like it, so I wiped it out. I'm putting my tree in here anyway. I'm etching my tree out. And that's going to go, that's a big one. That's a big tree. That's going to go all the way to the top. And um, it's almost as big as the one on the right. Probably is a little bit bigger, thicker. There we go. See? Cool, huh? I wiped that green off with a little odorless mineral spirits. Got my tree in, made it the same, basically the same as the other side. Made one side darker. The left side's got the lighter highlights in it. Now I've got the blue green That's the color I want for my signs right there. It's blue-green. And that's phthalo blue with sap green. And it's just a real pretty blue-green. So I'm making some of that tree boughs come out, peeking out on the right side of that big old tree. And we'll see the tips there. I'm going to start doing, there it is. I'm just etching that tree out. I'm not smashing my um, fan brush in there because I don't want to hit the tree. Get a little crazy. But I'm just pulling down with a nice little brush and uh making some nice points there and just notes that pattern. We're going to be adding some light blue in there, just a little bit. And I'm going to go right up uh, to the big tree. And on the other side, I'm going to start making some long branches. Creating some little uh, boughs. There, I'm using a fan brush there. I'm going to try and tap some of those branches in. There, it's working now. Just by using the corner of your brush, you can make some really nice tree boughs. And that's a pretty good tree, and that's coming out uh, the bank, center of the bank a little bit. But I'm just putting the blue-green in there, adding a little more blue, and going down to not quite to the base of that tree, but pretty close, because there's a snowbank there. I've got a little liner brush. I'm going to start putting in, fine-tuning some nice tree boughs with those little, I don't know what you call them, little stringers that come down. It's almost like I'm making a willow tree, a willow bough. But yeah, they have these little stringers that come down, and that's what I'm doing here. Creating some of those neat little pine stringers. All right, so I'm going into brown, Van Dyke brown, and a little black. And I'm going to start putting in some arms, some limbs on the other big tree on the right. And that has to be very dark to show up. So you want some almost black, but it's black and brown. And then after a bit, we'll put snow on those branches. And they reach out quite a bit. Both sides of the tree have those little gnarly limbs that come out. They're fairly straight. And I gotta do the other tree too, the big one. And just keep going on the top and those branches. Now I kind of went in the, not center tree, but kind of off center. It's not right on the edge of the tree when I pull those branches out. And then I put a little dark patch right underneath those limbs. It makes it a little more realistic. And that little limb there is gonna split. And that comes out quite a ways too. All right, I got some white on my brush. Actually, yeah, a little white. I'm gonna put some snow on the top of that branch. And I put quite a bit of paint on that brush too. It just kind of it flows on. See how nice that works? Not thick, it's fairly thin, but you can really shape it the way you want when it's a little bit thinner. Just pull down a little bit. Isn't that pretty? Make as many of those as you want, but I am working my way down. I've got a kind of a snow patch at the base there a little bit. Little tiny little stringers I'm gonna make. And with just a little brush, same brush. Always clean my brush out too. I wipe it really, really good before I dip it into a color, especially white, because you don't want to contaminate. All right, so now I'm gonna go back. Got a little of that icy blue on my brush, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of that in my snow that's on the branch. Just a little bit of blue, and here and there. And you can add it wherever you but think you have too much, go back and you can reshape your bows with darker color. Come back and put some snow on it. All right, I'm working on another branch. Lots of branches in this one. Still putting some little ziggy-zag things sticking down there. See how that works really good. I like that little tiny little strip liner. Get some fine little squigglies coming off of that branch. Put some more little ones up there. Little squigglies that come off of that branch there with some white. All right, I'm into some white. Got quite a bit on my brush. I'm going to put some uh, snow on some of those little branches. And most of them do have snow on them, so it's gonna be tedious, but it's well worth it. And I switch out brushes, you see that? Now I'm using a liner here on this side. It's whatever works for you. Some of those small areas there takes a really small brush. I say I just had a sign there. That's the number six. Number six liner. It's a little thicker than what I normally use. I just put a nice roll of paint on there. Start to put some snow on some branches that are hanging down. I'm gonna extend that one out a little bit over. Kind of hard to see. There, putting some extra snow on top of that. Just tapping it in. Back into some Van Dyke brown. I'm gonna add some little squigglies below that branch too. That bough is gonna have some variations of color in there. You can have brown, little touch of black, gray. I even put blue on them. It just gives it some nice depth, and it just looks better when you have variations of color. Got another one there. Now at the top on the right, you see I made that one branch gray, and the other one on the left is more white. Don't ask me why, I just did. So anyway, I'm going into a lighter gray, possibly a touch of blue too, but I'm gonna start putting in some shadow in that one on the left. It's kind of a cluster branch that hangs over. It's closer. It's like the gray one, that's closer. So it's gonna be bigger. Just putting in my shadows, and I'm starting to put some big old bows that are just the tips of them coming down off the top of the canvas. Some are curled, some are straight, some are going the other way. It's just it's light gray, very light gray, and I'm just don't want to overpower those ones that are hanging down. I just wanted a little bit of a canopy from the coming down the top of the canvas. So I've got some medium gray to light gray, and I'm just shaping some of those tree boughs, almost like palm trees. But it works out good. Even though I'm not using my fan brush, just a little flat, half-inch flat, and I cut the edge at an angle so it comes to a point. That's how I made that. And it works out pretty good. I got two and one in the same brush. All right, so I'm gonna form another uh bow. Just start pulling some of that paint, curling it, shaping another tree bow. Now I'll add my green, blue-green to those, starting at the top. I'm just going to shape out and some of those ones that are coming down just a little bit, putting some shadow in there. But I don't want to overpower too much. I want to keep the color fairly muted, I guess. So I'm jumping around a little bit. I've got some nice green on my brush, and I thought I'd come down and do some little squigglies off of those branches that are closer. Now I am at the top. I'm working on those boughs with some green, shaping those out. Going into white. Okay, I've got a little fan brush this time. I'm going to highlight some of those gray leaves that are at the top. And don't cover up any of those, a lot of those gray areas, because that just gives it depth. It doesn't look flat. It makes it, you know, look a lot better. It doesn't look flat then. The white um is highlight. It's a highlight. So just make sure you don't cover up all your grays. So I'm working on that big branch. Just ever so tapping, like shaping those the bow. And at the top, highlighting those gray ones. I know it looks really white, but that's all right. You can leave it white. It's just the canopy. Tapping snow on some of the green ones I missed. Up in the corner. I want to leave some of those dark areas in there. Tapping in more white. Gonna start working on that big old branch that's sticking out there. There's gonna be variations of light and dark in there. I'm shaping, I'm gonna be adding some powder blue in there and blue, different shades. And then eventually I'll put a little bit of green on there, just a tiny bit. There I'm going into my blue. It's phthalo with white. But I'm gonna have some darker blue areas there, and I'm tapping. See, I like to tap my brush and get the excess off. Then it doesn't get globby, it just stays, because I don't want a lot of texture. So I'm shaping the top part of that branch. It's a little bit darker blue. Try and separate the leaves a little bit. Just trying to shape that out. And adding a little blue down there, and some of those other branches need a little touch of blue. Some places are leave a little darker blue. That just gives it, it's a shadow area, I guess. Shadow blue. I'm going back into the gray, a little darker. And do it however you think. I'm just kind of ad-libbing here. I'm not, I think it looks okay, but I'm just shading, adding light, adding dark, adding a little green area. I mean, it is a pine tree, so it's going to have some of those things in there. I mean, you can putz with it, as much as you want, and it's just, you got to stand back and squint. Think you have too much, add a little white. Putting a little blue on top. Lighten up some areas. And when I take a break, I put a shop towel on top, kind of help soak up some of that extra oil. And then I'll come back and take them off, and then it's ready for a little brush, real soft brush. There I am. I'm just going along with the green, just softly putting a few of the green areas in, trying not to overdo it. Yeah, when you think it's done, you see another spot you want to hit, but I think it's come along really well. Yeah, I think this painting is just about done. Gonna put a few more white squigglies in there. Few more white lines. And just about there, I think. Adding some more, little dark lines below, little tree branches. Very fine lines. Ever so light. Gives it a little more character. Adding a little more shadow in the snowy area, just a little bit. Smooth that out. Well, I just about see a finished painting here. Wow, I love doing it. And I hope you do too. So until next time, happy painting and God bless.